Happy Wednesday to you. Thanks for joining me for 5 to 7 minutes as we continue our study through Proverbs. It is November 11th, so before we get in, I want to say Happy Veterans Day to all those men and women that have served and to all those men and women that are serving. I'm so thankful for your service. I'm thankful for the sacrifice you have made and your families have made so that we can enjoy so many freedoms and privileges that we have that often we take for granted. So thank you for serving, and I appreciate it. We're going to be in Proverbs chapter 11 today. I'm not sure if you've caught what we're doing, but we're taking a proverb a day based upon the date. So we looked at a proverb in chapter 9. Yesterday we looked at Proverbs chapter 10. Today will be in 11, and then tomorrow will be in 12. So hopefully you're going to find Proverbs chapter 11. I'm going to get right into it by just reminding us that the point of Proverbs is to encourage us that the source of wisdom is our relationship with God. And Proverbs gives us wisdom and instructions for a living on how to handle daily decisions, whether it's based on relationships, finances, marriage, leadership, you name it, Proverbs covers it. And so today we're going to be looking at the sticky relationships that we have with our neighbors. All right, Proverbs chapter 11, verse 12. Relationships right now, they are very difficult and they are very, very hard. And it's difficult time. It's difficult with social distancing because there are some that don't have the preference for social distancing, and there are some that have a very strong preference for social distancing. There's your neighbors are maybe some that are in your line with political views, and there may be your neighbors that are not in line with your political views and have rooted for the opposite party. And maybe they are happy or sad, depends on where you're at politically. Your neighbors are on one side or the other about the civil unrest. And maybe they just see it from a different point of view. And generally people right now they're on an edge, they're just really just nervous and they're frustrated, and there's just a whole lot going on. And now we have to share a yard because our tree is dumping on their yard, or their tree is dumping on our yard, or if you're in Maine, we're getting ready to put snow on, and where do we put the snow and who's taking care of what. All that to say we better have a good relationship with our neighbor. Also, how we interact to keep the peace with our neighbors, that we don't contribute to more unrest and more frustration, because if you don't have a happy neighbor, you could have a long season. All right, all I have to say, Proverbs chapter 11, verse 12, we're talking about our relationships with our neighbors. Proverbs 11:12 says, "It is foolish to belittle one's neighbor. A sensible person keeps quiet." All right, so what's this mean? Let's look at this for a few minutes. Those that tear down the people around them, they lack wisdom, we often lack understanding, and we lack a peaceful spirit. Now you might say, but you don't understand. They are continuing to tear me down. But two wrongs don't make a right. People that speak harshly are not going to help the healing process. They're doing more damage. And right now they're doing it with their tongues. How many times have we heard one of these statements? It's nothing personal. I don't have anything against this person. And then you know what the next word is? But. And maybe we have said that about our neighbor, or maybe our neighbor has said that about us, and it doesn't build bridges, it builds fences, literally and figuratively. How would you feel if your neighbor said this about you? How would your neighbor feel if you said this about them? Oftentimes with our neighbors, things get escalated and we forget that we are neighbors, and then things spiral out of control. So we don't want to be foolish when we speak about our neighbor. We want to be sensible, and sometimes the most sensible thing to do is to keep quiet. I believe most people, I truly do believe most people want to live at peace with everyone. I do believe that there are some people that wake up every morning looking for a fight, looking for a reason to have an argument because that's their personality, that's their demeanor, and maybe you are uh, lucky enough to have someone like that. But I believe most people are looking to live at peace with one another, especially neighbors. And I know of a few people, like I said, that are looking for a fight. Most people want to be civil and they want to be polite with their neighbors because they know life happens in community. And right now, you might be in a neighborhood that's the only person you can really interact with because of the social distancing. Neighbors may be tearing down neighbors. They are tearing down people who live beside them. And a good neighbor is so important to happy living. And we think about it when we go away on vacation, our neighbor watches the house. When we're away, they watch the house. They may help us with leaf raking or snow removal or grass cutting, or they may help us with some yard cleanup. And a good neighbor can make life so much easier. And it's also important for us that believe in Christ that if we want to be good neighbors, that's a good witness for Jesus Christ. And we want to be good witnesses. We want to be good neighbors because our neighbor may not know the Lord. Or if our neighbor does know the Lord, then we need to try to find unity because there's enough disunity right now. If we are to love our neighbors, we shouldn't speak poorly about them. If we have an issue with something that our neighbor's done, we need to take it to them face to face. We shouldn't talk about it with the neighbor on the other side. We should take it to the person. Now, let me give you a word of advice. Sometimes we're pretty fired up and we're pretty upset about something. You might want to let the emotion run out of the situation, and then you might want to tackle the problem. Sometimes what I've done is when I've had to go into a really difficult meeting, I write down my points ahead of time. Hey, not to, come in with the guns ablazing and to mow them down, but because sometimes I tend to sidetrack. And I often forget and I go down rabbit trails that aren't profitable. That's why I write down my notes when I do my devotions. Sometimes I write down notes when I have a tough meeting. You might want to write down a couple key points that you want to cover when confronting them, but don't confront them and say, hey, I got a list of things I got to talk to you about. You say, hey, I've got a concern. Do you have 5 minutes I can share with you? And you treat them the way you want to be treated because you know what? When this conversation's over, they're probably still going to be your neighbor and you're probably still going to want to have a good relationship with them. So one thing that I've heard, and I don't know if my mama taught me this or if I heard it or I've definitely learned it. Definitely learned this. The good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Sometimes we need to listen twice as much as we speak, especially about our neighbor. And you know why? Because you don't know what your neighbor's seeing on their side of the fence. Perhaps this devotional will speak to them because they need to come and talk to you because they have not been speaking well of you, and you need time to work this out because we need good neighbors, especially during this time of so much division. I hope you can have a great Wednesday. Hopefully you'll go out and talk to your neighbor. If you're living in central Maine, it is going to be about 60 degrees today, and this is beautiful weather. A great day to go out and talk to your neighbor. Again, happy Veterans Day, and I hope you have a great neighborhood block party tonight. I'll see you tomorrow for Proverbs chapter 12. Have a great day.